John Hofmeister, let's get you on pressuring oil companies' divestiture. Will that have an impact? Is this a moral issue?
I think the moral issue that should be faced first and foremost is to take special interest money out of the American political process. As long as special interest money from any source, from any special interest group, dominates the voice of the people of this country, I think it's an abuse of free speech which was never imagined by the founders who wrote freedom of speech as a basic right of Americans. There was no such thing as lobbyists and special interests and so forth. And so we have perpetrated upon ourselves as a nation $6 billion spent in the last election to stay even, to make essentially no change. Lowest voter turnout in the last 3 elections with the issues we face as a country. Because how many people give up when the special interests are buying candidates here or candidates there? So to me, if we're not going to deal with special interest money in the political process, any other kind of conversation is just an academic exercise, because it's the political process. Now, it's fine and it's wonderful for intelligent people to come together and discuss what the scientists know and to try to act on what the scientists know. And I'm not going to argue against the scientists. I'm not qualified to do that. But I would indicate that scientists over the years have not always been correct. And I'm not saying that they're incorrect on this issue of linking carbon in the atmosphere to climate change. But what I am saying is that, to your point, if the activity is directed against a particular industry, as in the case of fossil fuel in the United States, all that will happen in the United States of America is this nation will get poorer and the rest of the world will have more oil and natural gas. Because we don't run the world in this country. We're a part of the world, we share the world. We perhaps use more than our fair share in the current scheme of things because we're wealthier. But there is no affordable energy mix that can be imagined today and implemented today to achieve the lifestyles that people practice today without carbon energy. It just can't happen with what we know today.
But Shell Oil seemed to be giving up by selling its renewable energy portfolio. It's not even trying.
No, I was part of that. I was part of that decision-making process. We were selling to consumers junk technology. And it felt that it was just wrong to do that. Silicon-based photovoltaic cells. What a waste of money, ladies and gentlemen, to get 8 to 9% efficient electricity when the sun shines and to pretend that this is going to take care of your electricity needs. We felt it was just wrong, that this technology was outdated. We took all the money from the sale of photovoltaic, we put it into the next generation of technology called thin film, because that would double the efficiency from photovoltaic to thin film. And let's put that money into better technology. I still think thin film is nowhere near what it needs to be to compete with other sources of energy. Shell's still in the wind business because the wind business makes a lot more common sense. And why wouldn't you take advantage of a free source? But we're not going to spend shareholder money on technology that you know doesn't work. That's why. In the case of the Arctic, Bill brought up the Arctic. I was part of that as well. If a company like Shell, which has some of the best technology in the world, doesn't get to help set the standard for Arctic production, knowing that Arctic production will occur because the US Congress or the US country can't stop it, the Russians, the Chinese, other companies will go to the Arctic. There's no way to stop that. If the standard can't be set to protect the environmental risk, and Shell is probably best positioned of any company to set the standard, then let's go do that. Because the world, as we know it, will demand carbon fuel every day from now for the next 30, 40, 50 years. If you look at the gas lines in the aftermath of Sandy in New York, they've had to go to odd-even rationing. And I'm glad they did. I recommended it a week ago on CNBC. Because the demand is so great. People are tied to their gas tanks. And if we don't find a way to keep those gas tanks full while we find a replacement technology,
You know, we found a lot of the replacement technology. The German energy minister in the conservative government of Angela Merkel said Monday that Germany was going to blow past their target for renewable energy, that they'd be at 50% by 2025 and nearing, they might be at 66%. They're the one big country that took this seriously, that didn't let the fossil fuel industry stop them from doing things. You're absolutely right that special interest money is the problem, and that special interest money comes from the fossil fuel industry. You know, when you were running Shell, you were a faithful member of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and of the American Petroleum Institute, which are the two biggest sources of this dirty energy money that, you know, it warps, you know, it's not only that carbon warps our atmosphere, it's that that money warps our politics. And we'll get both of them out. I mean, our demand as we talk about divestment from fossil fuel is twofold. One, that companies stop lobbying in Washington, so there we're in agreement. And two, I guess, that they stop exploring for new hydrocarbons. I wrote a piece this summer in Rolling Stone that went oddly viral. It was the issue with Justin Bieber on the cover. But the editor said, you know, called me a couple of days later and said, something very strange is happening. Your piece has 10 times more likes on Facebook than Justin Bieber. And the reason was that it laid out, finally, the math in a way that people could understand. The one thing that the world has agreed on, every country, including China and the US, is that 2 degrees of global warming is too much. It's definitely too much because 1 degree, what we've had so far, melts the Arctic. 2 degrees is way too much, but it's the one thing we've agreed on. We know how much carbon it would take to take us past 2 degrees. We can burn about 550 gigatons more CO2 between now and 2050. But what the article pointed out, and this is new stuff that came from financial analysts around the world, the fossil fuel industry, the Shells of the world, already have in their reserves 2,800 gigatons worth of carbon, 5 times more than we can burn. Shell, in its reserves alone, has 5% of the carbon necessary to break the planet. One company with one CEO, one board of directors. This is, you know, this is the gravest problem we've ever faced. And all the sort of talk about let's take a long time and figure out all the easiest possible ways to do it and whatever, we're past that. It's time now that we grapple with the fact that it's our generations that will or will not decide how all this comes out.